hair loss. And I know that sends just dread through pretty much anybody. And I always kind of felt like there was really nothing you could do about it. But the more I've researched it, the more I know that there are treatments out there. So that's made me feel a lot better. Another thing to really know is that it is perfectly normal for everybody to lose some hair. Hair loss is affected by lots of things, stress, hormonal changes. So if you had any children, you may notice that while you were pregnant, your hair grew like crazy because you're taking your prenatal vitamins and all this stuff. But unfortunately, once you have your baby, then you might notice a lot more of a hair loss. So your hair has cycles, it goes through those, and that's one thing to be aware of. Another thing is if you have an episode of some, pretty extreme stress, and don't be surprised if you notice it like months later because of the cycles that our hair goes through. But one thing that I really think is an important thing to do is really, really keep an eye on your hair and hair loss. I'm going through menopause, and so I kind of felt like I noticed a little bit more hair loss than before. So what I like to do is really keep an eye on that. And so I'll use that, like every week I'll clean out my brushes and see if, it looks about average. Now, I don't sit there and count each strand or anything, but you can kind of eyeball it and see if you're starting to notice that. Another thing that I kind of keep an eye on is this. Now, if you start noticing hair loss here, it might be actually because of your hairstyle. You might be wearing too tight of a hairstyle and it's actually pulling, and it's what is it called? Tractional hair loss or whatever, where you're actually pulling your hair out there. But if you are starting to notice, another place to kind of keep an eye on is your part, because if you do start losing hair, that's where you're going to start noticing it. So this starts getting wider and wider in females. As well as here. So, I like to keep an eye on that and say, okay, well, does that look normal, or is it starting to widen? Now, if you do notice that you are experiencing more hair loss, go to a dermatologist. It's best to keep an eye on it now. And if you do start noticing it, go sooner than later. They will be able to do a test, and this is a test you can actually do at home, but it's called a pull and tug test, where they take sections all around your hair of like about 40 hairs, and then they pull on it. And if 6 or more strands fall out, then you might be experiencing hair loss. And so you can get treatment at that point. Because I think what happens is it might sneak up on you, and then all of a sudden you're seeing your hair super thin. It happens, relatively slowly, hair loss, but hair regrowth is just as slow. And so it's good to get your treatment, and then you'll start noticing your hair thickening up, because it could take a year, 2 years, or whatever before all of that regrowth starts filling in and your hair starts looking a little bit healthier.